This year's first election day is March 5th. That's a primary. And in Texas, you get to choose at your polling place whether you want a ballot with Republican or Democratic candidates. You can pick either, regardless of your party affiliation. To win a primary, a candidate needs a majority. That's 50% plus at least one vote. If nobody gets there in March, the top two vote getters advance to a runoff on May 28th. By the way, if you vote with a Republican ballot in March, you'll get a Republican ballot in May. No switching. Those winners will appear on the November 5th ballot, the general election. On these three dates, you'll vote for president, members of Congress, state Supreme Court, even sheriffs and district attorneys. It's the big one. But there is another important election in Texas this year on May 4th. This is mostly for cities and school districts. You'll see bond proposals, school board candidates, and potential tax increases on that ballot, all items that impact your kids, your roads, and your wallet. For more election information, visit WFAA.com/vote.
Listen up. If you plan to vote in this year's primary election, there are a few key dates you need to know. This year, the primary election in Texas is March 5th, Super Tuesday. Texas will join 14 other states and one territory, all voting on the same day. Now, early voting begins February 20th and it ends March 1st. So if you're applying for a mail-in ballot, that deadline for you will be February 23rd. Hopefully you've registered to vote already. That deadline was February 5th. Remember, it'll always be 30 days out from Election Day. Now, if you miss the primary election, there's still plenty of time to get registered to vote in the general election in November. We have a lot more information for you to help you prep for Election Day. Just go to WFAA.com/vote.
To vote in Texas, you have to be a U.S. citizen with a photo ID and at least 18 years old. Those are the most basic requirements. But there are some other eligibility rules you should know. First, people who've been convicted, not accused, convicted of a felony in Texas lose their right to vote until they've completed their sentence. That includes court-ordered supervision, probation, or parole. Once that's finished, that person's right to vote is automatically restored. People experiencing homelessness can vote too, as long as they can describe where they live using landmarks like parks or street corners. Those people can then list a P.O. box, a shelter, a nonprofit, even a willing friend's house as their mailing address. Texas also allows people with intellectual disabilities to vote, unless a judge has deemed them incapable. For example, a court would decide whether someone with a guardian should be allowed to vote when it appoints that guardian. Those people can then get help with their ballots or voting machines, but it's illegal for helpers to tell anyone who to vote for. Finally, there are about 100,000 so-called dreamers in Texas, people who came to the U.S. as children, grew up here, but who are not citizens. They cannot vote. For more election information, visit WFAA.com/vote.
Election Day is fast approaching and we're helping you prepare to cast your ballot. First, you'll need to register to vote. Head to the Texas Secretary of State's website at votetexas.gov, then go to voter registration and click on this link. It says start a new voter registration application here. Now, to register to vote in Texas, you need to fill out a voter registration application and return it to your county elections office. That has to be at least 30 days before the upcoming election date. Here's how you can fill out the application. Complete it online, print it, sign, and mail it to your county elections office. You can also request a printed application. Then the elections office will mail you a postage-paid application. And if you're cutting it close to that 30-day deadline, simply visit your local voter registrar and complete the application there. And listen to this, if you haven't registered to vote yet, there's a little shortcut. Let's say your Texas driver license is up for renewal. You can actually register to vote online when you renew or replace your driver's license. Just remember, if you are registered to vote, make sure all of your contact information matches. That means if you recently moved or changed your name, you need to update all your information on your voter registration record. You can update your information through the Texas Secretary of State's portal at texas.gov. For more ways to prep for Election Day, go to WFAA.com/vote.
Texas's rules for voting by mail have changed since the last presidential election. You're eligible to vote absentee now if you're 65 or older by Election Day. You're a student registered to vote in Texas, but studying out of state. You're pregnant and due within 3 weeks of Election Day, before or after. You're in jail, but not convicted of a felony. You'll be out of town on Election Day and during the early voting period. And if you're sick, injured, or living with a disability, it's up to you to decide whether you're healthy enough to vote in person, and elections officials cannot argue with your decision. Here are some key dates for the March 5th primary. Your early voting clerk has to receive your application to vote absentee by February 23rd. Then you have until Election Day to send it in. Ballots postmarked before 7 p.m. March 5th and received by 5 p.m. the next day will count. Don't forget, Texas now requires you to include an ID number on both your vote-by-mail application and the special envelope you put your completed ballot in. That could be your Social Security number, driver's license number, or digits from another state ID, but it needs to match the number Texas has on file for you. If you can't remember which one of those you used when you registered to vote, call your registrar of voters or put all of those numbers down. Scan this QR code to track your absentee ballot application and your completed ballot's status. For more election information, visit WFAA.com/vote.